Now, coming back to the amalgamation issue, we all know that we have spread region before. Now, whether the amalgamation was done with the consent of the people or not, that is by the way.
Who created the three regions?
Wait. Let's talk about it.
There were no three. Listen, you are making me say there were no three regions
before the white man came.
Oh God, there were no three.
Okay, let me talk about region. We know that you know about at the election. Okay, sorry. Speak, you want to speak.
So, Prince Yo, you made some claims very false. There was no Eastern Nigeria or Western Nigeria before the British. What we had were ethnic groups and tribes living wherever they were, their indigenous spaces, right? 1898 was when the conversation about Nigeria being transferred, or the ownership of Nigeria being transferred from the Royal Niger Company to the British government. And then there was a commission in 1899 called the Showstar Commission, right? And at the end of that whole thing they did, Nigeria was paid for. It was £865,000 from the British government to the Royal Niger Company that we now call Unilever. At that time, we had the North and we had the South, because they created it to be that way, not because God did not create Eastern Nigeria, Western Nigeria, or Northern Nigeria. God just created land. And the people occupied those places, and based on their political structure, ethnicity, ancestry, and things like that, and culture, they owned their spaces. There was no Eastern Nigeria before the British. As a matter of fact, there will never have been an Eastern Nigeria without British coming to what we call Nigeria. And let's quickly make something very clear. I'm sorry, guys, very, very clear. So there was North, there was South because of the trade with the Royal Niger Company. In 1900, we had the North separately and the South separately. That was when Lord Lugard came into Nigeria. By 1914, we had amalgamation of the Northern and Southern protectorates created not by God, but by the British. In 1939, the Southern Protectorate was broken into two. There was no Eastern Protectorate from 1900 to 1939. The first time we had the word Eastern region and Western region was in 1939. So this, I don't know where you've made many claims today. You just said now that there was Eastern region before the British. Where? How? Who put you together? Do you know one of the problems that people actually had in the East was because the people, and I'm going to say this respectfully, and by the way, what I'm about to say right now is literally written in the Willings Commission report of 1958. The inquiry was in 57, the report came out in 58, and what they wrote in that place was that people who used to, I won't mention the tribes or the ethnic groups, some ethnic groups used to sell some other ethnic groups as slaves. After the British came, the ones they used to sell as slaves were made the head in that region. And so they had a huge problem having to listen to that other group. This is in the report. And I've read it here before, but today, because I'm not reading it, I won't mention the ethnic group directly. So the idea that there was an Eastern region is actually quite ridiculous, because you couldn't have it, because you didn't even have the capacity to create an Eastern region, because that group that you think has that power were actually the ones they were selling. I don't know where we make all these things from. There was no Eastern region until 1939.